Welcome to the Kentucky Workers' Compensation Podcast with Ched Jennings of the Jennings Law Offices. This is a free resource for people who actually work for a living. Ched is going to provide information to help you file for and maximize benefits for injured workers. If you're ready, let's talk about Kentucky workers' comp and related issues. Friends, welcome to this edition of the Kentucky Workers' Compensation Podcast, sponsored by Ched Jennings and the Jennings Law Offices right here in Louisville. Ched Jennings is in the studio with us today. Ched, welcome back, guy.
Thank you. Glad to be with you again.
Always
Jim.
good to see you. Always good to see you. And we have a special guest today. I'd like to introduce to the listening audience there Commissioner Rob Walker of the Kentucky Department of Workers' Compensation. Rob, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We've met each other previously, so it's kind of nice. I mean, you kind of know everybody in the studio, so I hope this is going to be a good conversation about some things that are going to be very pertinent to the workers here throughout Kentucky. Rob, let me do this. First of all, welcome to the podcast, and again, congratulations on receiving the position as the commissioner. I don't know if that's an elected position. I guess it is, right?
Appointment by the governor.
Appointment by the governor. So do us a favor. Give us a little bit of a background of Rob Walker. Who are you? What do you do? And then we'll kind of get into some of the roles and responsibilities as commissioner.
Sure. Well, I grew up in a small town called Hardinsburg, Kentucky. It's about 60 miles down the river in Breckinridge County. Went to Western Kentucky University, graduated there, and then went to University of Louisville Law School, graduated from there in 1997, and decided to make Louisville my home at that time. Started out working for a large defense firm. Did that for 5 or 6 years, and then two of my buddies and myself decided we're going to open up a plaintiff's law firm, and we did in 2001, and that's when I started representing injured workers full-time. And did that until about 2020 when I accepted the appointment from the governor to be deputy commissioner of the Department of Workers' Claims, and then was made interim commissioner in May of 2021. And then just about 10 days ago, the governor appointed me to the permanent position as commissioner. So thank you for the congratulations.
Brand new. Man.
That's right. Well, I've been with the department over a year and a half almost.
Right.
But yes, thank you so much.
It's good to have you. Well, let's do this. And Ched, I know you'll want to join this conversation with us here, but Rob, as you look at this, what are some of the roles, responsibilities for the commissioner? I mean, really, there is a structure, an administrative structure, and you're kind of at the top of the food chain for that purpose, right?
Right. We, the Department of Workers' Claims, main office is in Frankfort. We have, I believe, 96 employees at this time, a substantial budget, and the commissioner's in charge of all that. Mainly what we do at the Department of Workers' Claims is we run one of the largest, if not the largest, quasi-judicial system in the state. We've got 15 administrative law judges, 2 more that will be added January 1st, and 3 board members that are basically the appellate level after the ALJs. So whenever there's a dispute between an employee and an employer, they come to us to have it resolved. So what we do there is provide a fair place for the resolution of those claims. And that's just part of it. We also we regulate any self-insureds in Kentucky for workers' comp. We also regulate the physicians that provide services for workers' compensation. We put out a fee schedule. So there's a lot of other things than just as a plaintiff's lawyer. When I was doing this representing injured workers, I thought the Department of Workers' Claims is mostly just adjudication,
right,
handling claims, but when I got the job, there's much more to it.
It's a lot deeper than that, right?
A lot more regulatory, yes.
Well, and I tell you that's one of the really interesting things about your appointment to this position is the fact that you were a former plaintiff's lawyer. So I mean, the workers here in Kentucky can rest assured they're probably in good hands with having someone with your specific background at the top of the game there, helping direct all this. I think you just instinctively kind of get some of the challenges. Not that you can make a whole bunch of sweeping changes, but I mean, you kind of understand from the plaintiff side, from the injured worker side, what the system is for and what it's all about.
Right, and that's a good point. I always tell people I came from the front lines, so I know exactly what's...
It's not just theory to you.
It's not just theory to me, and in fact, today we were having an LMS meeting, which is our electronic filing system, and they were discussing the PPD calculator, which is the benefits calculator.
Right.
And they turned to me and said, "You used it. Tell us what you think about it." And,
Nice to be able to pull that
yeah.
out of the pocket,
And I
right?
said, "Well, here's my criticism."
That's outstanding. So, in some of the other responsibilities, I mean, you've obviously got the administrative law judges spread out throughout the state, and kind of you oversee all of this. So basically, you're overseeing, in all reality, the entire system.
That's correct. Yes. The administrative law judges, the appellate board, which is the workers' compensation board, and then we've got investigators that go out and try to make sure that everybody has workers' compensation insurance. We've got the claims department. It is a large department in the state government.
Wow, doing a lot of good work too.
It is, and I tell you what, we've got excellent staff there at the department. Very blessed.
Commissioner, also, I always like to point out, and I like to tell people, it's the top administrative position of the Workers' Comp Act in Kentucky. And you have to work with the governor, you got to work with the legislature, you've got to work with, and I tell people to visualize this, that you're sitting at the head of the table as the commissioner, but then you have all these chairs around the table representing all the stakeholders in Kentucky, and you have to work with them, you have to work with their issues, you have to try to help to keep there being an early determination of medical benefits, early determination of disability benefits, and a speedy adjudication of the claims. And I think that's what the role is. And I want to thank you for taking that position, because you're one of the, we haven't had an injured workers attorney take that position since the year 2000. So it's great to have somebody sitting in that position who has the feel for the injured workers in the system. And I really want to thank you and appreciate with that. But I was going to touch upon and ask you about we want to generally talk about the challenges and opportunities of the workers' comp program in Kentucky. But one of the things I want to point out to you is that I've noticed over the years, through all the cases and the representation, that this Workers' Comp Act actually started in 1916. That's the year that the one we've got today. There's some statutes we have in place today that were put in place in 1916. And I always like to note that the overall objectives of the 1960 Act, and they have been expressed, is that early delivery of benefits, both medical and disability benefits, and a speedy resolution of workers' comp claims. And that's still, to me, and I hope for you, are the overall goals of the Workers' Comp Act and how you address the problems that confront the Workers' Comp Act each day.
Absolutely, Ched. You described it perfectly, and I could not have said it better. And just to add to that, Kentucky has a really strong workers' comp system. You know, a lot of people go around saying we have the best, but when you go out and you talk at seminars and you meet other people, other commissioners from other states, they really do look toward Kentucky because of the way we handle injured workers. You know, our goal is, like Ched said, is we get treatment. We try to get it as fast as we can, proper treatment, because everybody wants the workers to go back to work. When the injured workers go back to work, everybody wins. The employee wins, the employer wins, and the insurance companies win. That, as Ched said, that's the stakeholders in the system, and that's what I'm striving for, is to get injured workers back to work. When I was at a seminar last week in Louisiana, and they specifically brought me down there so we could talk about treatment guidelines, talk about pharmacy formulary, because they want to learn from Kentucky. And I talked with the director of the Louisiana Association of Self-Insured today, and he called me to thank me again for speaking, and then said, "This means we can also call you later with questions, right?" And I said, "Of course," because it's serious and it's real when people say Kentucky is one of the leading workers' comp. Has one of the leading workers' comp system in the country.
Well, and unlike Medicare or Medicaid, workers' comp is a state-based system. So, and that's why these other states are kind of looking to our model.
It is, yes, 100% state-based, 100% created by state statute. You're right.
And I'll tell you another thing that brings Kentucky up to the top of respect, and people want to talk to Kentucky, is that for the last 16 straight years, there have been reductions in premiums in Kentucky. So think about this. It's now probably over 80% cheaper to pay workers' comp in 2021 than than it was in 2006. And how many other business expenses can you point to with that? So when they see that, and Kentucky's done well with attracting, you've seen the governor attract a lot of business to the state. So we have our house in where we have a lot of things to offer: labor, land, jobs, and we also have a good workers' comp system. And I think that's one of the things I'm really glad when I travel and do some stuff that we find out. But I've noticed that there are a few things that are starting to create some problems for the injured workers that I know you know about. And one I just wanted to, basically touch upon is it seems like in the rural areas we have claimants who are complaining they can't find doctors to treat them for their work injuries. Not because they don't want to treat them, but because of the system, utilization review, and a few other things that makes it more difficult for the doctor to treat. And we also have found that you don't have as many attorneys in the rural areas that will take these cases and actually handle representing their interest. And I know over the past year and a half, you've been up there as deputy as well as the interim, and now you're the full commissioner. I know you've done some things, and tell us, if you would, what some of the projects have been that when I say done some things, but what are the projects that the department's worked on and implemented that's actually you're able to point to that helps the system and helps the delivery and meets the goals that they set in 1960?
Right. One of the things that we've done that was already in place before COVID was we were 100% electronic. You could file your claim online, submit medical records online. So that we really had to step up when COVID hit in early 2020. But what we did after COVID, and this is I have to give credit to former Commissioner Bob Swisher. He decided to go virtual and use the Zoom platform for hearings, for benefit review conferences.
And that's that video conferencing, right?
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So now the person, for example, in Boyd County, in Ashland, who was injured on the job, instead of having to come to Frankfort for a hearing, which is where his or her regional hearing site is, they can just stay at home, stay in their attorney's office in Ashland, and actually attend the BRC, which is like a pretrial, virtually, and even attend the hearing virtually. So that's a really, really added bonus. It also gives access to injured workers out in the rural parts of the state.
Well, I got to think, if you've been banged up, in a workplace injury, the last thing you want to do is get in a car and drive for a couple of hours, fight traffic, fight stairs, sit in the conference room. You can do this basically from home or somewhere near home.
Well, in addition to that, the problem is that a lot of times they have to pay the expense of gas, which is not cheap anymore, parking. They have the time. They have to have somebody probably drive them, like their wife, who also then has to maybe miss work. So they lose money in that respect, or have to pay a friend to bring them. And in our system prior to Zoom, we ended up there was 2 times that they would have to make that journey from Ashland. And the people in the Ashland area would either have to go to Pikeville, Frankfort, or Covington. And that's the problem in that area. All that takes some time and roads. And this Zoom has just been tremendous. And I'll tell you one funny story that I had a client call, and he said, "Do you mind if I do the hearing from here at my place of employment?" And our hearings are about 45, or at least mine are 45 minutes. I said, "What do you mean?" "It's going to be on Zoom." I said, "Well, will you be in a private room, or will you have some?" What? He says, "Well, I'm going to be back in the director's room." And I said, "Well, is anybody going to be around you?" "No." And he said, "Well, my boss talked with me. It's a small business. Asked if I could do that. That's why I'm calling you." And I said, "That's great, but why is he asking that?" "Well, he doesn't want to have to miss the day. He doesn't want to have to bring somebody in to replace me taking care of the business of what I normally do every day." And what was really kind of neat, they scheduled it during his lunch break. And that's what I think, that's back to what I was talking about. That's an employer who's working with the employee to make sure they get back and keep them, and the employee's trying to do what he can to help that as well.
And Ched, you're right. That's a really, really efficient way to do it.
Yes.
I many times practicing and representing injured workers, we would go to the BRC, and I would go in and talk with the judge and the other counsel, come out, have my client come in, meet the judge, probably the last 5 minutes. And a lot of times my clients on the way out would say, why was I even here? I missed the whole day for this.
Right.
Ched's example is a perfect example of that. They don't have to miss work anymore. And what we found is we're pretty efficient with Zoom. I'll give you an example. I think at a round table I was at last, I think it was Michigan, who told us they were 3 months behind because of COVID. Mm-hmm. We never skipped a beat. Still, 99.9% of our opinions were issued within the 60-day statutory period.
Wow.
And again, that goes. A lot of that goes to former Commissioner Bob Swisher. I mean, he had the foresight and he put it into place. But I'll tell you, what we've learned, not only are we efficient, but a lot of our stakeholders like it. Most of our stakeholders like it. So I don't see us going back to in-person BRCs, especially. I think
and this is a benefit review conference, right?
That's right. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, you go to see the ALJ and you try to stipulate issues that you don't have to really have a hearing about. Streamline the issues for the hearing. Zoom has really been good for us. The other thing is, starting January 1st, we're going to have 2 additional administrative law judges that the governor appointed 2 weeks ago. And what that's going to do is allow more people to get in front of judges quicker.
Well, when you were first, starting up your part of this conversation, you had mentioned where the Kentucky Workers' Compensation System is a quasi-judicial. So you're using the term administrative law judge. This really is administrative law. It's not like a hearing you would see on TV necessarily, right?
That's right. I always tell.
It's not like a big CSI jury trial.
No. I always tell my clients, you don't get a jury trial for a work injury, but that's okay, because workers' comp claims are designed to be resolved in 4 to 6 months. If we had to get a jury trial, especially in Jefferson County where I was practicing, it may be 2 years before we get in front of a jury. So this is a benefit to you. And also, there's one person you're talking to. It's not 12 members or 9 members of a jury. You're talking to one administrative law judge.
Right.
So you do get to have your day in court, but it's not like on TV and Law and Order and stuff like that. You're right.
But so you guys are getting ready to seat 2 additional judges into
That's
the
right.
system. Wow.
They start January 1st, and that'll give us more judges to hear medical fee disputes, more judges to do mediations, and more judges to have hearings and BRCs. And so what that means to the injured worker in Kentucky is quicker access, quicker determination of their claim.
That's fantastic.
And I know both the 2 new judges are coming in, and both are going to be great.
Absolutely.
Outstanding. Now, there's also something going on with the claims processing, and I know the new ALJs obviously have a hand in that. They can the throughput. If you're thinking from an assembly line, you've got more stuff going down the line. But talk a little bit about the opportunities here for improvements in processing of claims.
That's always going on.
Yeah.
Especially, and it was good timing because we had an LMS meeting today, and I think there was 26, and let me get their terminology right. IT people use terminology that I'm still trying to learn. In their sprint, I think there was 26 areas that they wanted to work on. It could be that someone's requested a new tab in one of the screenshots online. And so every month we go through those and we look, and they ask for my input and where I think this should be. Should it be higher? Should it be lower? In what priority? And so that process is always happening. It's getting better because we're, one, learning from our mistakes.
Sure.
And 2, the system's just getting better because we're constantly working on the system to process claims. And right now, you don't have to be tech savvy if you're pro se. You can do it on paper. You can send it to us the old-fashioned way. Write it out and send it to us. We still take that.
There's a little bit more of that lawyer speak coming in. Pro se means you're representing yourself, right?
Yes, you're right. You're right. You don't have a lawyer.
Right.
And I want to tell you, at first it was not hard to get this system off. You have to give some credit to then Commissioner Dwight Lovin from Owensboro,
Yes.
who spearheaded this. And at first everybody, and I will tell you what, and Rob will know what I'm talking about, and Jim, I hope you will too, but kind of corralling attorneys and getting them to do something or be on board with stuff, it's a tough job. And as this has developed, I think I'd be shocked that there'd be very many attorneys that would tell you that they don't like the system. It's great. You can do it from anywhere. We can do it on your computer right now.
Yep.
We can do it from home. We can do it from Europe. I remember having a Zoom hearing one time. I'm not going to tell you who the attorney was, but he was on vacation in Costa Rica. And so it was fine. It didn't slow up the case. He didn't ask for any continuance or rescheduling.
But again, just as you all referenced early on, back when this whole system was set up in 1916, the idea was quicker access to care and treatment for that injured worker. And again, Kentucky has just taken the ball, and we just continue to improve the system day in, day out. And that's fantastic for the workers, because that's what it really is all about. It's about getting that man or that woman the benefits they need and helping them, as you said, Rob, earlier, getting back to work if at all possible.
Absolutely.
And Rob may not know this, but I've kind of quietly polled your judges, and I would say the overwhelming mass, I mean, you're talking about the judges are actually really supportive of the Zoom because it permits them not to schedule, permits them, they don't have to go on, say the judge that lives in Eastern Kentucky doesn't have to go to Paducah to spend a week hearing cases. And what I like about it is when we have these benefit review conferences, we also call them status conferences, but the judge is able to get their arms around the case. And they'll ask me, Ched, what else do you need to basically set this for the hearing? And what else do you need? And they ask the defense attorney. And it's one of those things where, well, okay, let's get back in 30 days, and they schedule another telephonic conference. And I will tell you, if I've got a problem in a case, I like it, Commissioner, because I'm able to contact the judge and ask for a hearing. And I'm telling you right now, or a meeting with the judge on the phone, a telephonic conference to deal with an issue. And I'm telling you right now, they're in one of these judges that I can't call today and probably have one if I have an emergency set for Monday. And that's significant. You can't say about it when you didn't have Zoom. That's the thing.
Right. Technology can be a good thing.
Yeah, so all that's really a plus, and there's other people who've been really responsible for that. And I want to commend Commissioner Swisher because he had to make the hard decision. Do we cancel and hold things up, or do we do this Zoom? And he did it was the right call, and it was the super, and then we found out that we really like it. Want to know why haven't we been doing this for years?
Well, Commissioner, we're talking again about some of the opportunities out there for the Kentucky workers' compensation system, and mediation is something that was instituted a while back. But again, the idea I would think moving forward is to really amplify the program, right?
Right, and that's one of the areas that I'm probably most proud of. Is while I was deputy commissioner, when Commissioner Swisher was there, we instituted a mediation program, promulgated a reg, drafted a reg so that it could be put in place. And so what we have now is every claim, either side can ask for a mediation, or the administrative law judge can order it on his or her own. And what that means to the stakeholders is you get a free of charge, another opinion from an ALJ to talk to you about your case. And so what happens is you make the motion, or the administrative law judge orders it, you're assigned to another administrative law judge to have the mediation, which is you get together with your lawyer and the other side and the judge, and you sit there and you talk and you try to work out your claim. And right now, I know one administrative law judge, Doug Gott, has over a 99% success rate, and he's probably done more mediations than all the other judges combined.
He's good. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, Rob, he's really good.
So what that means is these cases are being resolved before a decision is made. And what that means to all the stakeholders is you don't appeal a settlement.
Right,
it's a final resolution. So everybody can move on, the employer, the insurance company, and the employee. Anytime I go speak at a conference or a seminar, I push this mediation because it's a service that the Department of Workers Claims almost again use DWC, which
I would ask.
When the Department of Workers Claims, this is something we provide as a service.
Yeah.
So it's available, and it doesn't matter if you're a business owner or you're an employee. your ears perk up when I say that. It's a free service for you that we offer so we can get your claim resolved quicker, get benefits to you quicker, and you can move on with your life.
Well, the nice thing, unlike all the stories you hear in civil court or criminal court where, there's wars going on and all the argument and acrimony, it seems like both sides have kind of bought into this idea, this concept of mediating workers' compensation claims.
Absolutely. I've met with plaintiffs' lawyers, defense lawyers, and I can tell you all of them sing the praise of mediation.
Well, I was just going to add one thing that makes a big difference for injured workers is that the judges can only give weekly benefits. Just about I've had maybe one mediation where we agreed on weekly benefits, but all the rest of them have been for lump sums. And that's more appealing to the injured workers to get a lump sum than they would to get weekly benefits for 8 years.
Well, that makes sense because then they can figure out what they want to do with it. There's immediate needs sometimes, and they don't have to worry about, well, I don't have as much coming in this week, I got to wait. Yeah, it's a little bit more flexibility for the injured worker and his or her family, I would think.
And for the insurance companies, what's really kind of neat, they're able to close that file.
Yeah, yeah.
And statistically, if you ask the insurance companies, the significance of a file being closed frees up reserves. It also brings the cost of the case down. Normally, the claimants at that point in time don't go to the doctors as much. They don't have medical fee disputes. They don't have these problems. And that's what I think is really good, and again, an overall part of our workers' compact. And that's why I would say if he hadn't had the opportunity, he'll hear from the employers and insurance companies that they are very supportive of this mediation program.
And I got to think ultimately that's to the benefit of the injured worker. I mean, that's again, the core essence of what this program's all about. So once again, Kentucky, I don't know if we're leading the way in that one, but we sure are making it work.
We are. We're making it work, yes.
Well, I tell you what, so we're coming to the end of 2021 here, so it wouldn't be natural if we signed off with this without talking about COVID. So, Commissioner, talk to us a little bit about how you guys are dealing with COVID.
Sure. Well, Zoom was the big thing that we did. Right now, we're still 100% virtual, which means we don't have any in-person hearings, no in-person mediations, no in-person benefit review conferences. So we adapted pretty well. Like again, we didn't have the backlog that some other states may have. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was an emergency regulation that the governor signed a couple weeks ago, and it's the COVID 101 form. The executive order that the governor had issued gave a presumption for first-line workers that included, grocery workers, healthcare workers, that it was presumed that they were exposed to COVID at work if they had a positive diagnosis. Now that went away in the legislature. The presumption did. So what the governor decided, and we wrote it for him, is we now allow those individuals an expedited hearing to determine their income benefits. So now instead of waiting, 3, 4, 5 months for a determination, once they file for income benefits because of occupational COVID exposure, there can be a decision in as quick as 14 days on their claim.
Wow, 2 weeks. Wow.
Yes. So what we want to promote here is injured workers getting those income benefits, because if you're off work and you don't have money coming in and you've got a family, you need those benefits pretty quickly. So I think it's doing what it was designed to do, getting those claims paid quickly. I think I mentioned to you before we had 2 filed this week, one by a UPS worker and one by a nursing home employee. So Judge Gott is assigned all those, and he'll be setting hearing within 14 days. And this is designed for individuals that don't have lawyers. We made the form less legalese, made it more user-friendly.
I'm a big fan.
And the ones that were filed this week were filed by individuals.
Right.
And like I said, they hand-wrote it out, sent it to us, and we scanned it in for them. So,
friends, if you're listening to this and you're interested in that COVID 101 form, when you go to Ched's website, or if you're viewing this somewhere else, and there's a bunch of paragraphs down below the actual recording. Those are called show notes. And in the show notes, I'll actually put a link to that COVID 101 form for you so that you can click on that link. It'll take you right to the form. You can print it off, fill it out, and submit it. And we'll help you get those benefits a little bit quicker.
That would be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Ched, any closing thoughts?
No, I just was going to say on the COVID part, the interesting thing I know, I went to a meeting about 30 days ago, and I'm not going to identify the insurance companies, but they all spoke very highly. They were getting about 130 claims a month.
Yeah.
And not that many have been filed with the DWC or the Department of Workers' Claims yet, but they're paying all the claims. I mean, they're trying to address these issues, and you know, I think this form that they developed is really good because it sets forth the occupations. So if you fall in, if you're a hospital employee, you meet that criterion, or a police officer, or whatever it might be, the only thing they need from the doctor is saying they have COVID. And they basically then will file it, and I think that's going to take care of the Chief JLJ, Judge Gott, is going to do a good job of making sure people get. Where it's going to get a little bit different is when you get somebody that's outside of those classifications. Then there's a question, well, how did you get COVID? And that's what's going to be.
And how do we deal with it?
Yeah, how you deal with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, guys, that's a wrap for this episode. Commissioner Rob Walker, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for traveling in all the way from Frankfort to have this discussion with us, and I really appreciate the insights about the Kentucky system. I mean, it's an exciting thing to know that this is one more example of Kentucky really kind of leading the way in all the benefits and all the work we're doing on behalf of injured Kentucky workers.
All right, thank you. I enjoyed it. Love to come back.
Absolutely, anytime.
Thanks, Rob, for all you've been doing. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
You're welcome.
Yep. Ched, I know you're busy. We talk quite often, and it's always good to have you here in the studio. I appreciate the opportunity to set this up and to kind of get this information out to the listening audience out there. And I'd also like to thank the audience. I mean, this is good information. This is important information. If you're listening to this, I'd encourage you to share this out to your friends and family. There are a lot of people out there that need to know more about the Kentucky Workers' Compensation System. And Ched, when we sat down and kind of developed this podcast, we thought, you know what, this would be a great tool, something that's a lot easier than sitting down and reading a whole bunch of complicated text. Let's just have conversations about it. And we hope you found this interesting. If you have found this interesting, I would encourage you to do one thing for us. And that would be to subscribe to this podcast. Now, if you're new to podcasting, when you subscribe to a podcast, that doesn't mean that you're signing up to pay money. That just means you're going to get a notification every time we publish a new episode. And that way you won't lose track of this good information. You'll have a notification right there on your phone or in your email letting you know, hey, there's good information out there. And again, gentlemen, thanks for your time. This has been an episode of the Kentucky Workers' Compensation Podcast. It's what you need to know. Thanks for listening to the Kentucky Workers' Compensation Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back soon with more information. In the meantime, if you like what you heard, please consider sharing this on your social media channels. You'll be doing your part to help Ched support injured Kentucky workers.